Part 29. I Can See the Laws of Things. Author, Yitiao Xuanhuan. Chapter 281. The beginning of the second revival of spiritual energy brought about one extremely huge disaster after another. The land of the rising sun is surrounded by the sea. At this moment, under the influence of the spiritual energy turbulence, the sea surface is surging violently, and the swift and violent hurricane is sweeping huge waves, constantly approaching the land of the rising sun. The land of the rising sun is now in a situation where there are waves in all directions and there is nowhere to escape. No ships or planes can leave. This country may be destroyed by the waves at any time. Lin An stood in front of the tree of life, and with a slight stroke of his finger, a space crack was opened. His voice was calm and he said to Chen Daoming, "I'll go to the land of the rising sun first. There are people from our Kyushu region there." Chen Daoming nodded and said seriously, "It's up to you to decide. And the country of the rising sun has already hoisted the flag of our Kyushu region. In a sense, the land of the rising sun has become part of our Kyushu domain. Although, they definitely don't want to accept this fact in their hearts." Then, Lin An stepped into the space crack and disappeared from the eyes of Chen Daoming and the Tree of Life. The old face on the Tree of Life looked at Chen Daoming, and after a few seconds, he sighed with nostalgia. She felt the familiar aura from Chen Daoming's body. However, the Tree of Life did not ask any more questions at this juncture, and just said to Chen Daoming, "If you have something to do, go and do it. I will also do my best to curb the changes in some parts of the world." After Chen Daoming heard this, he left here. In this chaotic period, he, who is responsible for the internal affairs of the Kyushu territory, does have a lot to do. Zosu and Amaterasu, since Lin An conquered the land of the rising sun last time, they did not go into seclusion anymore, but began to cleanse the country. They were afraid that one day, someone in their country would do something to anger Lin again, and then real destruction would be waiting for them. Whenever I think of Lin An's powerful figure that day, Zosu and Amaterasu, these two world-class magic gods, goosebumps will instantly appear on his back, and strong panic will quickly spread in his heart. And now, these two Dharma god-level experts are leading all the experts above the Grand Master level in the land of the rising sun to resist the waves that are coming from all directions. They want to break up this wave. Violent thunder and lightning, burning flames, cold freezing breath. One attack after another penetrated into the waves, but it was of no use. They were all like sinking into the sea, without any response. Zosu and Amaterasu were floating in the air, trying their best to attack the approaching waves, but to no avail. The two of them looked at each other seriously, and their foreheads were still covered with beads of sweat due to the strong uneasiness in their hearts despite the strong wind and waves. The two of them spoke with trembling voices. "What should we do? We can't stop these waves at all. Is our country of the rising sun destined to embark on the path of destruction? Our request for reinforcements from Britain and Korea has been rejected. Several of their countries are also in a state of crisis. Damn, these so-called friendly neighbors have no role at the critical moment." The two of them also wanted to go and ask for reinforcements from the Kyushu territory, but when they thought about how they had united with Britain and other countries to subvert the Kyushu territory, they gave up the idea in their hearts. There is no need to count on the Joseon territory. They also encountered a national disaster, and even Lord Lin couldn't get away. And even if Mr. Lin An had time, how could he come to help a country like ours that has hurt them before? When the two of them said these words, their tone was full of self-deprecation, and they felt extremely regretful in their hearts. If they had not been in seclusion for more than 10 years, Sunrise Country would not have fallen to this point. The more they thought about the predicament they were facing now, the more desperate Zosu and Amaterasu felt. If the waves that envelope the land of the rising sun hit, I'm afraid only the two of them will survive. At the same time, at the port of the land of the rising sun, on the flag stand, the flag symbolizing the Kyushu territory was fluttering wantonly in the strong wind and waves. Two generals from the Kyushu territory straightened their backs and stood next to the national flag, even though the strong wind scratched their faces raw and the skin was broken. But the two of them remained motionless, and even their expressions didn't change at all. A strong man from the kingdom of the rising sun who passed in front of them looked at the two of them with confusion in his eyes. He didn't understand why at this critical moment, these two people still had to stand beside the national flag of Kyushu territory. Hey, are you two crazy? The world is about to be destroyed, why are you still holding such a flag? Come and tackle these waves with us. Listening to the words of this powerful man from the rising sun country, the expressions of the two Kyushu territory generals did not change at all. The two of them just raised their heads with firm eyes and looked at the Kyushu territory flag flying above their heads. Then a confident smile appeared on his face, and he said loudly, "We too are here to protect this flag under the order of Lord Lin-En. As long as Lord Lin-En does not cancel this order, we will stay here. Even if this country sinks into the sea, we must do our best to keep the flag that symbolizes our Kyushu region flying on the sea. Yes. Even if we die, we can't let Lord Lin-En down." After saying these two sentences, the town general paused, and then said in a louder and louder voice, "And I believe it. Lord Lin-En. He will definitely come to save us." After saying this, the two town generals stood straighter and their faces became more determined. But the strong man from the kingdom of the rising sun left here with a look of disbelief. He didn't think that the expectations of these two people could be realized. The situation is getting worse, more and more strong men in the sunrise country feel powerless, and despair has begun to occupy their hearts. It's over, it's dead. Run, the end is coming. All kinds of desperate words broke out in the territory of the sunrise country, and everyone was about to give up resistance. Zosu and Tianzhao were panting in the air. Their strength was almost exhausted, but the situation did not improve at all. But at this moment, suddenly in the sky above their heads, a huge space crack suddenly appeared, and the powerful breath made them feel waves of fear, emanating from this space crack. The heartbeat frequency of Zosu and Tianzhao instantly became much faster. They didn't know what was going on. At the same time, other people who felt the strangeness in the sky immediately raised their heads. I can see the laws of things. Author, Yitiao Xianyue. Chapter 282. The next moment, a series of surprised exclamations rang out. Baga, the sky cracked? Is there another natural disaster coming? I don't know what's in this crack. It's over, our sunrise country is doomed to be destroyed. And in this wave of desperate voices, Lin-En's figure slowly flew out of this space crack. The moment Lin-En's figure walked out of the space crack, this huge space crack closed instantly. Lin-En's clothes were blown in the wind, but his body was not affected at all. He floated steadily in the air. His face was very calm, and he looked at the sunrise country surrounded by countless surging waves directly below. And the scene of Lin-En's appearance was seen by Zosu and Tianzhao. The two of them became sluggish in an instant. They never thought that Lin-En would come here. After Zosu and Tianzhao came to their senses, their eyes couldn't help but widen. The eyes that were originally occupied by pain and despair were instantly replaced by strong hope. The two pairs of hands with various elements fluctuating began to tremble uncontrollably. This was a reaction caused by excitement. Tianzhao looked at Lin-En with a somewhat demented look. Her breathing became heavy, and her voice could not hide her excitement and said, "I didn't expect, the visitor was actually Lord Lin-En. Lin-En, Lord Lin-En, actually came to help us without holding a grudge. I'm so ridiculous. I subconsciously thought, Lord Lin-En would not come to care about us." Standing next to Tianzhao, Zosu reached out and patted Tianzhao on the shoulder. Looking at Lin-En, there was a strong sense of admiration and respect in his eyes. He said with great sigh, Our vision is too narrow, and everything we see is too short-sighted. How could Lord Lin En keep the offense of us ants in mind? Lord Lin En truly has a heart as broad as the sky. Only Lord Lin En is qualified to be the leader of all of us humans. At the moment when Lin En appeared in the sky above the kingdom of the sunrise, Amaterasu and Zosu, who had originally chosen to surrender only because of Lin En's strength. At this moment, their mentality has completely changed. They no longer choose to surrender because of Lin En's strength, but have been convinced by Lin En's character and are completely convinced by Lin En. In addition to Zosu and Amaterasu, the other warriors of the kingdom of the sunrise who are desperately trying to stop the waves are all looking up at this moment. Lin En, who appeared in the sky above the kingdom of the sunrise like a savior. In an instant, the faces of the people of the sunrise country could no longer hold back tears, and hot tears flowed out of their eyes. Hope was rekindled in their hearts again, and the reason for all this was because of the appearance of Lin En. Plop! A magic god knelt directly on the ground wet by the sea water, and shouted loudly to the sky. Lord Lin En, please, save our sunrise country. Plop! 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 Then, more and more people knelt on the ground, and louder shouts sounded in the roaring waves. Please, Lord Lin En, only you can save us. We can only believe in you. Until the end, even Zosu and Tianzhao, two world-class magic gods, landed on the ground, knelt on the ground and looked at Lin En with pleading eyes. In the face of a disaster that can destroy everything, the hatred that was stubbornly forgotten in the past has long turned into ashes. Lin En's eyes did not change at all because of these people. He still looked at these people calmly, opened his mouth and slowly said, "The sunrise country has surrendered to the Kyushu territory. This is my place, I will naturally not let it be destroyed." If it was in the past, Lin En said this, although the people of the sunrise country did not dare to resist, they would still resist in their hearts. But at this moment, the people of the sunrise country not only did not have any resistance in their hearts, but were excited. It was as if Lin En was in charge of the sunrise country, which was what they expected in their hearts. Lord Lin En is right. We are willing to submit to the Kyushu territory. Voices from the heart kept ringing. Lin En retracted his gaze and looked around. The huge waves that had begun to engulf the coastal area, his eyes once again turned into two colors, one black and one purple. A strong light flashed in the purple pupil, and he said in a cold tone, "Freeze." The next moment, white snowflakes fell from the sky, and the surging waves stopped moving, covered with layers of frost. The waves surrounding the rising sun country all turned into frost. And this freezing did not stop, but continued to spread to the sea farther away. A few seconds later, with the rising sun country as the center, the sea area within millions of kilometers in the direction, all condensed into ice. Those strong men from the rising sun country who knelt on the ground. At this moment, everyone subconsciously looked at the huge ice layer covering the sea border of the sunrise country. They couldn't help holding their breath, staring at this incredible scene with wide eyes, and their pupils were full of surprise and shock. We tried our best, but we couldn't stop the wave from advancing. But Lord Lin En just said one sentence, and stopped the attack of the wave. This is too incredible. Lord Lin En, too strong. Although they couldn't believe that such a thing would happen, they quickly fell into a state of ecstasy after surviving the disaster. They stood up from the ground one by one, looking at Lin En floating in the air with fanatical eyes. Some people danced excitedly, and some people hugged the person who had survived the death disaster with them. But more people were thanking Lin En loudly. "Thank you, Lord Lin En. Lord Lin En, it's great to have you here. You are so powerful." Amidst the cheers, Lin En's body slowly descended to the ground. The place where he landed was exactly where the flag stand was at the port. The two town commanders who were guarding the national flag were looking up at Lin En with longing in their eyes. When Lin En appeared not far above their heads, the two of them knelt on one knee on the ground, lowered their heads, and said respectfully, "Welcome Lord Lin En." Duh. Lin En stood in front of them, he raised his head and looked at the Kyushu territory flag that was still fluttering in the wind. The flag was very clean and not damaged at all. He nodded gently, and then said, "You two, get up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can see the laws of things." Author, Yitiao Xianyue. Chapter 283. Hearing this, the two town commanders stood up from the ground. They stood straight opposite Lin En without saying a word, just looking at Lin En with extremely respectful eyes. And the strong man from the Sunrise country who had spoken to the two town commanders before, now happened to look at Lin En and the two town commanders. He stood there stiffly, with an unbelievable look in his eyes. He didn't expect that the words said by the two town commanders, which he thought were jokes, would actually come true at this moment. How is it possible? That high and mighty Lin En actually came here. His strength is too terrible. Lin En looked at the two town commanders, chuckled, and said, "You two did a good job." When the two town commanders heard Lin En's words, they suddenly fell into ecstasy, their breathing became a little faster, their eyes widened, and their breath was full of joy. The two of them had never thought that they would be recognized by Lin En one day. This was a supreme honor for them. Then, Lin En continued to say, "Get ready, I'm here to take you home." After that, Lin En took a step forward. The next moment, he appeared in front of Zosu and Tianzhao. Zosu and Tianzhao tensed up immediately when they felt Lin En's breath and appeared beside them. Their hearts were in their throats, fearing that they would accidentally anger Lin En. Lin En looked at Amaterasu and Zosu with indifference, and said indifferently, "The Sunrise country is expanding now. If it continues to expand, it will inevitably collapse in the end. In order to prevent this from happening, I will uproot the entire Sunrise country and move it to the Kyushu region. When the time comes, you two just need to cooperate with Chen Daoming's arrangements. Do you understand?" Zosu and Amaterasu nodded vigorously, as if they were pounding garlic, and answered at the same time, "We understand, Lord Lin En." The two of them had no objections in their hearts. Lin En's words had become an order in their hearts. Lin En glanced at Amaterasu and Zosu, and then his body floated into the sky. In the air, he saw all the territories of the Sunrise country. In his purple eyes, a strong light flashed. In an instant, the entire Sunrise country was filled with the laws of space. Strip off. Boom. 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 After a tremor like an earthquake, a space barrier appeared around the entire Sunrise country. This space barrier completely separated the Sunrise country from the outside world, and everything in the outside world could no longer have any impact on the Sunrise country. Zosu and Amaterasu used all their strength to sense the space barrier. The powerful aura spreading from the space barrier made them feel a wave of shock. How terrible is Lord Lin En's space power? Using space power to wrap up the entire Sunrise country. This is a whole country. The space law used by Lin En is very advanced. Only those who have reached the level of the God of Law can feel this vague space barrier. As for the others, they did not notice anything. At this time, Lin En, who was floating in the air, stretched out a hand and slowly raised it up, and said in a flat tone, "Get up." The next moment, only the entire Sunrise country was seen floating rapidly in the air. The citizens of the Sunrise country were all panicking. They looked at the sky and the dark clouds that were getting closer and closer to them. What the hell, what's going on? Why is our country flying? So scary, help. The land of the Sunrise country rose very quickly. In less than 10 seconds, it appeared less than 100 meters below Lin En. Those panicked residents of the Sunrise Country saw Lin En floating in the air. Immediately, an absurd idea began to spread in everyone's mind. Is it Lord Lin En who made our country fly? This kind of thing, is it really something that humans can do? Even movies don't dare to shoot like this. In Lin En's purple eyes, the dazzling light flashed again, and in an instant, the sky was gusting violently, and the Sunrise Country was blown by the wind and moved at an extremely terrifying speed. And the people above the Sunrise Country, except for being able to feel that the land they were on was moving rapidly, they had no other feelings. After having a rough guess about the emergence of this situation, the residents of the Sunrise Country were no longer panicked. They now knew very well that Lin En would not harm them. After all, they had already sincerely accepted and regarded themselves as a vassal state of the Kyushu territory. 10 minutes later, Lin En led the Sunrise Country to the location of the Tree of Life. At this moment, the Tree of Life became larger, with countless thick branches connecting to the sky. Tree of Life, I brought the kingdom of the sunrise. What should we do now? Lin En asked the Tree of Life. The old face appeared on the trunk of the Tree of Life. She looked at Lin En and replied. Just put them on my trunk. My trunk can extend into the earth and fix them in the air. Lin En nodded, controlled the kingdom of the sunrise, and touched the Tree of Life. At this moment, countless branches grew directly on the ground of the kingdom of the sunrise, completely occupying the entire ground, and the kingdom of the sunrise was firmly connected in the air. It became a city in the sky. Afterwards, Lin En did not go to the kingdom of the sunrise, but landed in front of the Tree of Life. He asked calmly, "What is the world like now?" The World Tree immediately answered, "The spiritual energy is reviving, the earth is constantly expanding, and all places are still in chaos. More and more mysterious beings have reappeared in this world." Lin En nodded, and he continued to ask, "Can you carry all the countries in the world on your torso in an instant?" Lin En did not intend to go to one country after another and bring them to the Kyushu region. He was ready to use the Eye of Heaven to the extreme and transfer all the countries to the Kyushu region at once. The old voice of the Tree of Life slowly sounded. "You can, but I don't recommend you to do this." Lin En couldn't help but feel a little confused. He frowned and then asked, "Why?" The next second, the Tree of Life sighed and answered, "Because I feel that in the country called Great Britain in the West, the existence of the Hell Age has appeared. The strong men of that country are being ruthlessly slaughtered by the existence of the Hell Age. I can see the laws of things." Author, Yitiao Xuanhuan. Chapter 284. Lin En's original plan was completely disrupted. He looked at the Tree of Life, frowned slightly, and asked in a slightly solemn voice, "Have the people of the Hell Age begun to harm the world?" On the old face of the Tree of Life, a touch of grief continued to emerge. She sighed and said, "Yes, the familiar breath is becoming more and more intense. In the Hell Age, there are a group of demons who enjoy killing and feast on blood. Their appearance is no less dangerous to this era than the old gods who appeared before." Lin En's expression became more and more solemn. When the earth began to revive its spiritual energy for the second time, he had already made up his mind to face many troubles. He looked in the direction of Great Britain, and a burst of coldness flashed in his purple and black eyes. "Then I will go to Great Britain first. Let's see what the so-called Hell Age is like." After saying that, Lin En's figure disappeared directly in the Kyushu territory. When Lin En left, the residents of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun finally realized what had happened. They all went to the border of the earth and looked down. What they saw were only magnificent mountains and rivers, and endless high-rise buildings full of modern atmosphere. Kyushu territory flags were flying everywhere. This symbolized that the territory of their Kingdom of the Rising Sun was already in the Kyushu territory. My God! We are now in the air of the Kyushu territory. Lord Lin En, he turned our country into a city in the sky. It's amazing. This method is unimaginable. At this time, Great Britain, which is separated from the Kyushu territory by a sea, is located. It is already under a haze, with countless volcanic eruptions, and magma that can burn everything to ashes, flowing in sparsely populated areas, constantly approaching the borders of Great Britain. But no one came to stop it. In Great Britain, everyone, even ordinary children, was holding weapons in their hands at this moment, trying every possible way to survive. There are hundreds of thousands of demons, killing wantonly in Great Britain. The whole body is pitch black, with blood-red eyes, a mouth full of fangs, sharp nails, sharp horns on the top of the head, and two huge wings like bat wings behind. Great Britain is fighting these demons with the power of the whole country. But the effect is not too obvious. Even the national-level god of law and god of war, after a full-strength attack, can't kill these demons. At best, they can only cause minor injuries. And the town generals and master-level strongmen are even less opponents of these demons. Oh, God, there are demons in this world? They are exactly the same as what is recorded in the books. How terrible, these demons are so powerful, why are they so strong? I am a powerful god of magic, and I can't kill them with my full strength. If only Lord Kaidi hadn't been killed by Lin En, Lord Kaidi would have been able to kill these demons. Waves of desperate shouts spread across the sky, more and more scarlet blood flowed out, and among the corpses that fell on the ground, the number of human corpses far exceeded that of demons. The demons enjoyed the pleasure of killing, their bodies were covered with blood, and ironic smiles hung on their faces. He, the two-legged sheep of this era, are so weak. The strongest among them, even we can't beat them, too weak. Captain Pierre and Lord Lucifer, I think they will feel very disappointed with this era. Today, kill all the people in this country. To celebrate the return of our hell. The next moment, the demons all over the sky and the ground laughed wildly and began to kill the people who were already desperate. The claws cut through the space, emitting a violent dark breath, shrouding people's hearts. Humph. And at this moment, a cold snort like thunder in the sky exploded in the air. The bodies of the advancing demons were suddenly hit by a strong impact, and they stopped in place one by one, looking up at the sky in astonishment. At the same time, the people of Great Britain also looked up at the sky. What they saw was a figure standing in front of a space passage, with a cold face and hair flying in the wind. At this moment, they recognized who the person was. He was Lin En. The man who defeated Kaidi. The powerful people such as the god of law and god of war of Great Britain suddenly widened their eyes and stared at Lin En. That is, Lord Lin En. Lin En, Lord Lin En, is he here to save us? Great. Those damn demons are finished. The demons slowly came back to their senses, and they saw the performance of the excited people on the ground. Immediately, the demons looked at each other, and a hint of playfulness flashed in their blood-red eyes. They flapped their wings and began to approach Lin En in the sky. At the same time, they kept talking loudly. He, looking at the performance of those two-legged sheep, this guy should be the strongest person of this era. Let's kill this guy now, and the expressions of those two-legged sheep will definitely be very interesting. I can't help but want to see that scene, he. Although these demons instinctively realized that Lin En was stronger than the magic gods and martial gods they faced before. But they didn't care much. Their arrogant nature would not take any human beings in their eyes. Soon, these demons flapped their wings and appeared beside Lin En. They surrounded Lin En layer by layer in the center. They looked at Lin En with a greedy and sarcastic look, as if Lin En had become their prey and would be slaughtered by them. The leader of this group of demons was a bull-headed demon. He flapped his wings and flew from the demon group to Lin En. He opened his fang-filled mouth and said to Lin En, "Pathetic human, Kneel down and surrender before me, and I can spare your life. The demon leader had his own plan. Compared with killing Lin En directly, it would be more interesting to make the humans below feel desperate. Letting Lin En kneel down and beg for mercy in front of him would be even more despairing. But Lin En. He just looked at the demon leader with an extremely cold look. I can see the laws of things. Author, Yitiao Xianyue. Chapter 285. The demon leader looked at Lin En. When he saw that Lin En had no intention of kneeling down, a surge of anger could not help but rise in his blood-red eyes. He flapped his wings, getting closer and closer to Lin. A few seconds later, he was only less than 2 meters away from Lin En. At this time, he stretched out a hand, pointed directly at Lin En, and yelled, "Human, can't you hear me?" If the person in front of him was not Lin En, he would kill him directly, but now he believes that Lin En is the hope of mankind, so he will try every means to humiliate Lin En. Lin En looked at the arrogant demon and couldn't help but sneered and said, "Idiot." Snap. The next moment, Lin En took a step forward and appeared next to the demon leader in an instant. At the same time, he extended a palm to the side and patted the demon leader's body casually. Boom. Immediately afterwards, there was a strong sense of pain on the body of the demon leader. Half of his body was turned into fly ash in this moment, and the remaining body parts were also quickly dissipated. The only remaining blood-red eye looked at Lin En with fear. All this happened so fast, he didn't even have time to react. How is it possible? It's just a mere 2-legged sheep. He actually has such powerful power. While the demon leader couldn't believe all this, the remaining half of his body was turned into ashes, completely annihilated by Lin En's casual slap. Not even a trace was left. At the moment when the monster's figure completely disappeared, the demons who surrounded Lin in the sky were all dumbfounded for an instant. Everything among demons depends on their strength. The demon who can become the leader of the demons is the strongest one among the demons. As for the situation where the demon leader was slapped to death, this was a situation that none of the demons present had ever thought would happen. They all looked at Lin En with dull expressions. The wings that were originally flapping excitedly became much slower, and the blood-red pupils also showed a hint of gray. What happened? The leader was slapped to death. Even Lord Lucifer can't possibly slap the leader to death. How can this era, be so scary? Lin En's mysterious eyes looked at the demons surrounding him indifferently, and he said without any fluctuation in his voice, "Here comes the sword." The next moment, a pale sword blade appeared next to Lin En. Buzz. At the same time, the sword sound caused by the white sword being unsheathed resounded in the air. When the demons heard the sound of the sword, their eardrums suddenly bulged, as if they might burst at any time. They all raised their claws and covered their ears hard, and painful whines were heard. "My eardrums hurt so much. This voice is more terrifying than Lord Lucifer's demonic voice. I kind of regret leaving hell." Lin En stretched out a hand and held the white sword tightly in his hand. He mobilized the power in his body and the earth will carried on the sword, and slashed forward with force. The next moment, a dazzling sharp white light cut across the entire sky in an instant. Countless spaces were directly split, and pieces of void continued to collapse. When the demon saw Lin En slashing his sword and the surrounding sky began to collapse, he didn't even think about it. He subconsciously started to flap his wings and quickly fled from the sky. Endless fear appeared on the faces of the demons, their pupils were full of panic, and even their bodies were trembling. They have been with death all year round and are very sensitive to the intuition of death. The demons now feel an unprecedented death crisis under Lin En's sword. The desire to survive drives them to escape from this world, otherwise they will end up dead. But their escape is of no use. The white sword light slashed through the demons one after another without mercy. However, all the demons that were slashed were split into countless tiny dusts and quickly disappeared from the world. Just a few seconds later, hundreds of thousands of demons were all killed by this sword. The entire sky regained its brightness once again, leaving only Lin An standing in the sky with a long sword in his hand, looking down at the world. The people of Great Britain all raised their heads and looked at Lin An's figure that seemed to dominate the world. Boom! 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 Each and every one of them was so excited that their heart rate exceeded the normal range, as if their ribs were about to be broken. Whoops! Whoops! Their eyes widened with all their strength, their breathing became very heavy, and they took big mouthfuls of air that was no longer suppressed. My heart is filled with deep gratitude to Lin En. Master Lin is God. He gave those damn devils the punishment they deserved. Too handsome. Different from the civilians who cheered and rejoiced. The gods of war and magic in Great Britain couldn't believe what they saw. They tried their best but couldn't kill many demons. Lin En killed them all with just one sword. They knew how powerful these demons were. The expressions of these gods of war and magic were all very complicated. On the one hand, they were very grateful for what Lin En had done, but on the other hand, they were a little jealous of Lin En's powerful strength. But despite this, they were completely afraid of Lin En's strength at this moment. They also began to accept the reality that Lin En replaced Kai Di and took charge of Great Britain from the bottom of their hearts. No wonder Lord Kai Di was killed by Lord Lin En. It turns out that Lord Lin En's strength has really reached a very terrifying level. This kind of power is not an exaggeration even if it is called the power of God. Lin En put away the white sword and slowly landed on the ground. The moment he landed, he felt a violent space fluctuation in a crater in Great Britain. He flashed and appeared in front of the volcano that was erupting violently, with red magma spraying all over the sky. An ice crystal shield appeared beside Lin En, blocking the magma. Standing on the edge of the crater, Lin En looked into the interior of the volcano. In this volcano, in the center of the large area of magma, there was a void space crack. From this crack, there was a constant breath of demons. Lin En's eyes condensed, and he slowly said, "This space crack is the door to hell." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can see the laws of things. Author, Yitiao Xianyue. Chapter 286. Looking at the gate of hell exuding endless darkness, Lin did not enter directly. He just looked at the gate of hell for a few seconds, and then looked away from the gate of hell. The most urgent task is to transfer all the realms of human existence to the tree of life. After completing this matter, go to hell. After saying that, Lin turned around and took a step forward. The next moment, he appeared again within the borders of Great Britain. Those around Lin En were all looking at Lin En with awe, and their hearts were full of respect. No one took the initiative to disturb Lin, they were all waiting for Lin to give orders. Lin En glanced at these people indifferently and said in an indifferent tone, "Now that the world is undergoing great changes and various crises are emerging, we humans must unite our front. All mankind has become a community, and we need to work together to fight against external crises." The people around him listened to Lin En's words, and their eyes gradually became serious. They all nodded in agreement. Master Lin is right. At this moment, we should put aside our conflicts and unite together. I support Mr. Lin. Lin heard all these words in his ears. When the surrounding sounds became quieter, he spoke again. For the sake of unity among each other and for the safety of the world, I will transfer Great Britain to the Kyushu region. Do any of you disagree? After Lin finished speaking, the surroundings fell into silence, and everyone was shocked by what Lin said. But they quickly figured out that in this disaster that no one could escape, unity and cooperation became the only way out. Then they kept answering. Master Lin, Do as you say. We are now focused on you. But is it possible for this kind of thing to happen if we move to another country? No one resisted Lin En's proposal. They were just a little skeptical. Is it really possible to transfer a country by oneself? But the next moment, the entire Great Britain, except for those countries that were erupting volcanoes, was suspended in the sky. And it is approaching the distant ancient country in the east at a speed that exceeds the speed of light. The surrounding white clouds and blue sky disappeared like a glimpse in front of everyone in Great Britain. A few minutes later, a huge tree appeared in the eyes of everyone in Great Britain. They arrived at the Kyushu territory and saw the flag of the Kyushu territory flying on the branch of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun. Hiss! 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 Immediately, the residents of Great Britain couldn't help but take a breath of air. They now understood that in just a few minutes, their country had moved from the west to the east of the earth. And not only their country, Great Britain, but even the country of the rising sun has already been transferred to the Kyushu territory. In Great Britain, everyone, whether they are mortals or cultivators, is in a state of confusion at this moment. Oh my God, someone can actually do this. It's so terrible. This is a method that only the Creator can have. Could it be that, Master Lin, is he the master of this world? Amidst bursts of exclamations and astonishment, Lin hung Great Britain on a branch next to the land of the rising sun. Because of the laws of space, although the two countries appear to be very close to each other, they are independent of each other and do not affect each other. Then Lin En landed in front of the Tree of Life, and he said with a serious tone, "You are right, the existence of the Hell Age has indeed begun to harm this world. And I saw a gate to hell there. And there's a name called Lucifer." The old face of the Tree of Life appeared, with a touch of solemnity on her face, and she said, "Lucifer? It's actually him. I've heard this name more than once. He is one of the giants from the Hell Age. He is a very evil and dangerous guy. And his strength is also very strong, much stronger than Chendeaming's demigod state." Lin En nodded, without any trace of nervousness or anxiety on his face. There was even a sneer at the corner of his mouth, and he said calmly, "Above the realm of demigods. Huh. This is right. If the so-called giant is just a demigod, that would be no fun." The Tree of Life looked at Lin En blankly, and she realized that she could no longer see through Lin En. Among these thousands of generations, perhaps only Lin En faced some powerful and terrifying existence. Only then can we maintain this indifferent appearance. The Tree of Life couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Lin raised his head, looked at the land of the rising sun and the kingdom of Great Britain, and said to the Tree of Life in a calm voice, "Now I will move all the countries here in one fell swoop and you prepare." The Tree of Life immediately replied, "Don't worry." The next moment, Lin En's figure passed through the space crack and came to a height of 10,000 meters. The whole Earth was in his overlooking view. He did see that except for the place where Xuanhuan was located, the rest of the land was expanding rapidly. The color emitted by that purple eye became more dazzling, and even half of Lin En's face was illuminated into purple. The will of heaven in Lin En's body continued to expand, and the speed of its operation became faster and faster. Boom! 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 The whole world shook, and countless countries were shrouded in the space barrier, rising from the ground and pouring into the sky. At an extremely fast speed, they gathered in the direction of Xuanhuan. A few minutes later, these large pieces of land all came to the sky above Xuanhuan, and were inserted into the trunk of the Tree of Life one after another. The people of the Sunrise Country and the Great Britain were all watching this scene. Some people stood on the ground with their eyes wide open, while others raised their hands to cover their mouths to prevent themselves from screaming. Heavy gasps continued to sound in the two countries. Everyone who saw the scene felt so unreal, like a dream. That is Goryeo, that is Italy. Lord Lin En actually brought all the countries in the world here. This method is simply against the will of heaven. Now, all humans can unify the front line. After hanging these other countries on the branches of the Tree of Life, Lin An landed on the ground again. He said to the Tree of Life, "Now, I want to go to hell to see. I can see the laws of things." Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 287. On the Tree of Life, the old face looked at Lin An with a complicated expression. After she pondered for a few seconds, she slowly spoke. "Lin, you must be careful. Ahead of you is the real hell." Lin An looked at the Tree of Life, who was obviously worried. He couldn't help but slowly curved his mouth, and he moved closer to the Tree of Life. The eyes looking towards the Tree of Life were filled with endless confidence. Lin An chuckled lightly and then said in a loud voice, "It doesn't matter if there is heaven or hell ahead of me. Anyone who dares to hinder me, I will crush it without mercy." The Tree of Life could feel that when Lin An said these words, the strong confidence burst out from the depths of her soul, and her somewhat worried heart couldn't help but calm down. After living for such a long time, the Tree of Life saw this godlike posture in a person for the first time. Although she knew that Lin An's departure meant that he was completely on the opposite side of Lucifer, the giant of the old era, she still couldn't help but said, "I'm waiting here for you to come back." Those who were grafted onto the branches of the Tree of Life clearly heard the conversation between Lin An and the Tree of Life. The citizens of Great Britain, these people who have experienced the ravages of demons, looked at Lin at this moment, and the gratitude in their eyes became more and more intense. Their inner hatred for the devil has already reached its peak. "Come on, Sir Lin An, we must punish those demons. Mr. Lin, you can definitely do it. Please, avenge us." Countless people in Great Britain prayed desperately in their hearts. Lin An nodded lightly towards the Tree of Life, then waved his hand, tearing open a space crack next to him. The other section of the space crack was where the gate of hell was, where he had seen it before. Clatter! Lin An took a step and disappeared into the cracks in space. And at the moment Lin An disappeared, the people who had seen the scene all raised their heads and looked into the distance. Each of them looked stunned, and subconsciously said, "Master Lin, he is so fearless, he actually went to hell alone. In this world, I'm afraid only Mr. Lin An has the courage to do such a thing. Hell, that's hell, a place where demons walk everywhere." When Lin An disappeared for nearly a minute, a space crack appeared, and Chen Daoming's figure walked out of it. While he was dealing with affairs, he noticed a series of violent spatial fluctuations occurring in the Tree of Life. Although Chen Daoming knew in his heart that all this must have been done by Lin An, he still couldn't suppress the curiosity in his heart. After handling the matters at hand, he directly tore apart the space and came to the place where the Tree of Life was rooted. Area. When he looked at the life, he frowned slightly and asked in a somewhat doubtful tone, "Where's Lin? Where is he?" The Tree of Life answered, "He went to hell. Real hell." When Chen Daoming heard this, his expression instantly became dull. But he soon returned to normal, smiled helplessly, and then slowly sighed. In this world, for Lin, what place is qualified enough to be called a real hell? This so-called hell is going to be in trouble. Chen Daoming really couldn't imagine that there was anything in this world that could stop Lin An from moving forward. Without paying too much attention to where Lin An went, Chen Dao raised his head and looked at the sky. When he saw the familiar land masses grafted onto the Tree of Life, one after another, and felt the breath of life that started in the billions emanating from them, the corners of Chen Daoming's mouth couldn't help but twitch, and his expression became a little confused. That guy Lin An has actually moved all the countries here. Isn't this too damn fast? How did he do it? Although it was very unexpected, Chen Daoming immediately felt waves of headache. After Lin An transferred these countries here, he chose to leave directly without paying any attention to these countries. This is obviously to throw this mess to him. Why? After sighing helplessly, Chen Daoming began to contact the current managers of these countries. At the same time, where the border of Great Britain used to be, next to the gushing crater, a crack in space tore open, and Lin walked out of it. He clearly felt the scorching heat of the bursts of magma, and the air was filled with violent fire elements. "Hell, here I come," Lin En said with a sneer, and then flew directly to the space passage in the volcano. The moment he entered, his eyes were filled with darkness, but after a few seconds, the darkness dissipated, and the so-called hell appeared in front of Lin. The color of the whole space is red. The ground is very wide, but it is full of potholes. The boiling magma is filled in the potholes. The red magma demons are bathing and sleeping in it. There are sharp spikes everywhere, covered with blood. The sky is densely covered with bloody dark clouds, and bursts of black lightning flash violently in it. The environment of hell is full of deep depression. The breath of death and blood permeates the entire space of hell. After entering hell, Lin En took a rough look at the surrounding environment, and then slowly said, "Is this the so-called hell? It's really not a place suitable for human survival. Then there is no need to stay." After saying this, Lin En's body landed directly from the air to the ground, looking coldly at the depths of this hell. No demons around him noticed him. All the demons were preparing for the invasion of the human world next. And these demons didn't dare to imagine that humans would take the initiative to enter this hell. Boom! Lin En raised one leg, his purple eyes flashed, and the laws of gravity and power were released with all his strength. He stepped hard on the ground. Boom! 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 The next moment, with Lin En as the center, countless gullies appeared on the ground around him, and the magma on the ground exploded and rushed into the sky. The blood-colored dark clouds in the sky continued to dissipate, and black lightning collapsed in the rain. The entire hell space was in a violent shock. I can see the laws of things. Author, Yitiao Xuanhuan. Chapter 288. At the same time, the current rulers of various countries have been summoned from their respective territories. About 100 strong men, the lowest of whom are at the level of the God of Law, all gathered in front of the Tree of Life. At this moment, they all looked at Chen Daoming, who was standing next to the Tree of Life. Chen Daoming's face was very serious now, and he looked at everyone present with a serious look. The rulers were a little uncomfortable with Chen Daoming's eyes, but they did not dare to show any expression. Because they were not the opponent of Chen Daoming, the demigod-level strong man, and even if they dared to resist Chen Daoming, they could not help but feel a deep sense of powerlessness in their hearts when they thought that the person standing behind Chen Daoming was Lin En. Lin En was an existence that they could never reach in their lifetime. After a few seconds of silence, Chen Daoming spoke solemnly. "I think everyone has some understanding of the current world's situation. We humans must all stand together to resist other enemies. And I personally think that the only person who can stand at the top of all humans is Lin En. It's already this time, and we Injus who are not prepared to use any soft means on you. You must give an answer today, whether to submit to Lin En's rule or choose other ways out." After Chen Daoming said this, he turned his head and looked into the distance. He did this because he didn't want to put pressure on these people. The surrender chosen under pressure will sooner or later be a variable. He thought it would take a long time for the rulers behind him to make a decision, but the development of things was completely different from what Chen Daoming expected. It was only less than 5 seconds after he turned around, and shouts with strong excitement rang out one after another behind him. Really? There is actually a chance to become a resident under the rule of Lord Lin En. This is really great. I am willing to submit. I am also willing to submit to Lord Lin En. This can really be regarded as the biggest good news today. After submitting to Lord Lin En, our life safety can definitely be best protected. This is really good news that we have been waiting for. After experiencing the second spiritual energy revival and the horror of natural disasters, the leaders of these countries, their hearts have completely changed. They know very well what choice is the most correct at this time. Only by holding on to Lin An's thighs can they be guaranteed to survive, so the moment Chen Daoming asked this question, they had already made a decision. Chen Daoming turned around suddenly, looking at these people who could not hide their excitement on their faces, and the corners of his mouth twitched again. At the same time, he completely understood that Lin An's current position in the world is the ceiling. Lin An, I didn't expect that you have grown to this point in such a short time. It was the most correct decision to hand over the Zhou territory to you. Chen Daoming sighed in his heart. At this moment, Lin An has truly become the king of the human race. At the same time, in hell, countless demons began to hide in this terrifying scene that seemed to be collapsing. There were panic expressions on their faces, and they were waving their wings frantically, looking for a relatively safe place. Many demons had no time to escape, and were killed by the collapsed ground and the exploding magma. A series of doubtful and angry roars were still echoing in the red sky. Damn it, what happened? Why did hell begin to be destroyed? Is it Lord Lucifer who is coming back? Impossible. Lord Lucifer will not destroy the hell space he created. At this time, a voice that sounded full of tyranny echoed in this hell space. Don't guess. You can't say Lord Lucifer's name casually. Everyone, go to the space channel. The source of all this started from there. The demons flying in the sky tensed up one by one, and fear appeared in their scarlet eyes. They immediately replied. We'll go now, Commander Pierre. The next moment, a large number of demons quickly approached the center of the change. About a minute later, the demons, who were advancing rapidly, all came to the place where the space channel was located. They all saw Lin An standing on the ground with a calm face and motionless. Immediately, these demons felt a strong sense of surprise. Their scarlet eyes were all looking at Lin An, and what appeared in their eyes was surprise. But they soon recovered from their shock, and immediately there were bursts of mocking voices. He. Am I seeing right? There is actually a human in hell. This guy is really looking for death, he actually entered our hell alone. What a stupid human, I want to catch him and give him to the returning Lord Lucifer as a snack. Get lost, I am the devil who gave him to Lucifer. The moment they saw Lin An, the uneasiness in the demons' hearts completely dissipated. These demons just regarded Lin An as a two-legged sheep who came to die. The demons of all races opened their claws, waved their wings, and approached Lin An. At the same time, in the palace of hell, Pierre, who was covered with black spikes, had two huge horns on his head, and 6 wings behind him, also saw Lin An's figure through the eyes of the subordinate demon, and immediately a trace of irony appeared on his face. I thought something big happened. But I didn't expect it to be just because of a mere human. It's really boring. Then Pierre slowly closed his eyes and began to think. After destroying the country of Great Britain, where should he go to destroy next? At this time, the extremely large number of demons had already approached Lin An infinitely. Lin An stood there with a calm face, and the look in his pupils did not change at all. The white sword in his hand had already appeared. He raised the white sword and casually slashed it towards his side. The next moment, a sword energy several thousand meters long, emitting pure white light and shaped like a full moon, swept out in all directions. At the moment the sword energy appeared, Pierre, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes. A hint of surprise appeared in his blood-red pupils. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can see the laws of things. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 289. A wicked smile appeared on Pierre's lips, and he said excitedly. Interesting. This human is not simple. This attack has at least the power of a demon king. Interesting. It seems that I need to come forward. I like to kill the strong people the most. After that, Pierre spread his wings behind him and flew out of the palace. At the same time, where Lin En was. After the white sword slashed, the demon standing in the front row, the extremely hard body was instantly cut in two, and no demon could survive this sword. Even the protruding hills were chopped into dust. After the sword, there was no demon within 1,000 miles. And the surviving demons thousands of miles away were all scared at this moment. It has reached the point where they dare not even move. Plop! Plop! The demons flying in the sky fell from the ground uncontrollably and trembled on the ground. The demons were shocked by the power of this sword and developed a deep fear of Lin En. What a terrible human! Such a powerful attack, I have only seen it from Lord Pierre. Could it be that, he can be on par with Lord Pierre? At this moment, Lin En took a step forward and came to the front of the demons. He looked at the demons with cold eyes and raised the white sword again. The white sword was across the space, and the powerful force had begun to gather crazily. With the next sword, Lin En would annihilate the demons 1,000 meters away again. And the demons, when they felt this powerful force, came back to their senses one by one. They saw the attack just now and knew that running away was useless. Under the influence of the survival instinct, these demons immediately crawled on the ground, their foreheads touching the hot and broken ground, and their bodies were still shaking uncontrollably. At the same time, they kept begging for mercy from Lin En. We are willing to submit to you and respect you as king. Please let us go. As long as you show mercy, we are willing to sign a soul contract with you and become your demons. Give us a way to live. We will never betray you if we have a contract. Although these demons are bloodthirsty and crazy, they still instinctively want to survive in the depths of their souls, so they did this at this moment. Lin En's sword was still horizontal in the air, and his right hand tightly grasped the hilt. The look in his eyes looked at the large group of demons crawling on the ground in front of him with indifference, and there was no wavering in his heart. Lin En's mouth slowly raised a sneer, and waves of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He slowly opened his mouth and uttered a sentence with a cold face. Those who are not of my kind must have different hearts. The next moment, without giving any demons time to react, Lin En clenched the white sword and slashed forward. Boom! The sword energy like a nuclear explosion spread rapidly, and when it touched the circular sword energy, it began to dissipate in an instant. The countless demons crawling on the ground were as fragile as a piece of white paper, and were easily torn into countless pieces. Before they died, they only left countless shrill shouts. No, I don't want to die. I haven't killed a two-legged sheep yet. I'm not willing. Lord Lucifer, save us. For killing these demons, Lin En had no regrets in his heart. If he was facing a group of humans now, he would still consider whether to try to sign the contract. But now he is facing a group of demons who enjoy killing and are full of evil breath. This guy who has been in the enemy camp with Lin En from the beginning, even if he kills tens of billions, Lin En will not blink an eye. And at this moment, a furious roar that resounded through the sky resounded from the distant sky. Damn guy! The huge Pierre waved the 6 black wings behind him and approached Lin En at a rapid speed. 2 seconds later, Pierre, who was moving at full speed, appeared in the sky 10 meters in front of Lin En. He stared at Lin En with wide eyes and said in a somewhat tyrannical tone, "Human, you are really brave. You actually killed all the subordinates in my territory. You are simply looking for death." While saying this, Pierre also landed on the ground. He stared at Lin En viciously, wishing to kill Lin En here. But then he found that when Lin En faced him, his expression and other things did not change at all, as if he was just a non-threatening existence in front of Lin En. Pierre's heart immediately became more angry because of Lin En's contempt. He spread his 6 wings as much as possible, and the dark power of the devil on them began to brew. At this moment, Lin En also set his eyes on Pierre in front of him. He looked at Pierre with cold eyes and asked in a cold voice, "Are you Lucifer?" Pierre immediately opened his mouth and scolded, "Shut up, how dare you call Lord Lucifer by his name? You are really asking for death. And you think too much, how could Lord Lucifer bother to deal with a pathetic guy like you?" After answering Lin En's question, Pierre released his aura with all his strength. This is a powerful force that can rival that of a demigod. Lin En raised his eyebrows slightly and asked again, "Who are you? What realm are you in? Where is Lucifer?" When Pierre heard Lin En's words, the 2 demon claws clenched tightly. He resisted the violent killing intent in his heart and did not rush to act, but answered fiercely, "Lord Lucifer is not here, this is my territory. And my name is Pierre, one of the warriors under Lord Lucifer. My realm is the Demon King realm." Pierre didn't care about Lin En at first, but Lin En's performance made him more cautious. Now the reason why he answered Lin En's question was just to accumulate power for the attack he was about to launch. The Demon King among demons corresponds to the demigod among modern humans. Lin En confirmed the news. He didn't rush to act, but asked again, "Lucifer, what realm is he in?" Pierre said, "Lord Lucifer, he is above the Demon King realm. Demon God realm. I can see the laws of things." Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 290. Demon God realm. Is it a higher realm than demigod? Interesting. Lin En said in a low voice. He had long known that demigod was not the limit that humans could reach. After learning about Lucifer's strength, Lin En did not ask Pierre any other questions. He just looked at Pierre indifferently. He raised the white sword with one hand, pointed the tip of the sword straight at Pierre, and said in an extremely cold voice, "Now, you can go to hell completely." But at this time, Pierre's face showed an expression of conspiracy, and an arrogant smile flashed in his eyes. He roared, "Human, you are too arrogant. It's just a little strength. Take my trick, Black Storm." After saying that, the 6 black wings behind him quickly waved, and from these 6 wings, endless dark elements spread out. The next moment, 6 black tornadoes that covered the sky and the sun formed around Pierre. The fragments of the earth and the wandering white clouds were stirred upside down in an instant. These 6 tornadoes merged together and directly swallowed Lin En into them. The smile on Pierre's face became more and more arrogant. He stuck out his tongue, licked his lips, and saliva slowly dripped down. "If I kill you and offer you to Lord Lucifer, who is about to wake up completely, then he will definitely be very happy. He. But just as Pierre laughed arrogantly, a white sword light flashed in the huge black storm. In an instant, the black storm was cut in half and began to collapse rapidly. And from the broken black storm, Lin En held the white sword in one hand and used the other hand to tidy up his hair, which was a bit messy due to the storm. Duh. 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 Approaching Pierre step by step. Pierre looked at Lin En, who was still unscathed after being swallowed by the storm, and his face became dull. His blood-red eyes widened like 2 flashing emergency light bulbs, and the 6 wings behind him that were originally stretched out at full strength were now limp behind him. His thick Adam's apple bounced up and down in his throat, and Pierre kept swallowing the saliva that was secreted into his stomach. How is it possible? This is my ultimate move. It was actually cut off by a sword. Even if it is, the Holy Spirit, there is no way to defeat me with a sword. How strong is this human?" Pierre's heart could not accept what was happening in front of him. He had never experienced such despair as facing the bottomless abyss. His ultimate move could not hurt Lin En at all, which had already doomed the result. He was not Lin En's opponent. Listening to the footsteps of Lin En approaching him, Pierre's heartbeat became heavier again and again. 2 seconds later, Lin En came in front of Pierre. His eyes were full of indifference, and he looked at Pierre expressionlessly, opened his lips, and asked, "What do you mean by what you just said? Lucifer is about to wake up completely. Has he not woken up yet?" Hearing Lin's words, Pierre no longer dared to hide anything. He lowered his head and said with great respect, "Yes, respected human lord. When the world began to recover again just now, Lord Lucifer also began to recover, but he did not wake up completely." Lin's brows could not help but frowned, and he said with a serious look, "Then the invasion of our world was not an order from Lucifer." A flash of panic flashed in Pierre's eyes. When he felt that Lin's emotions when he asked this question were mixed with waves of murderous intent, sweat suddenly poured down his forehead. "No. That's right. Invading humans is my own decision. The purpose is to celebrate the return of Lord Lucifer." At this time, Lin En, who knew the truth, suddenly had a surge of murderous intent in his eyes. The violent momentum instantly enveloped the entire hell space. "Ridiculous. You celebrate the return of Lucifer by killing us humans. You, damn it." Bang. Pierre's body suddenly knelt on the ground, his limbs instantly became weak, and his whole body couldn't help shaking. What a terrible murderous intent! How many killings has this human carried out? The murderous intent of Lord Lucifer is not so magnificent. Facing this murderous intent, it's like facing a bottomless abyss. The next moment, a strong and strange light flashed in Lin En's purple eyes. Boom! The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the sky was full of scarlet lightning, dancing wildly. Bang! The ground cracked again, and the magma rose up like Optimus Prime. Whoosh! The sharp wind like a knife filled the space. Pierre, who was kneeling on the ground, saw these scenes that seemed like doomsday. The frequency of his body shaking became more and more intense, and the only thing left in his red eyes was the fear he had never felt before. After swallowing a few mouthfuls of saliva and moistening his dry and hot throat, Pierre was able to barely regain the ability to speak. "No. No. Impossible, each of these powers is stronger than my ultimate move. How is it possible? This era, what kind of era is it? Why, there are such human beings who can stand shoulder to shoulder with God." When Pierre said the last sentence, he was shouting out with all his strength. Even though he saw it all with his own eyes, he still couldn't accept it in his heart. But Lin En didn't move at all. The sky was full of thunder and lightning, the flames burned the sky, and the wind blades tore everything apart. Pierre's body, in this violent force, had no resistance at all and was torn into countless pieces. Before he died, his eyes were still staring hard, and he was still filled with fear. Lin En stood under this natural disaster, and a space channel suddenly appeared beside him. He stepped into it and left this hell without any demons. Boom! 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 The entire hell space was exploding and collapsing, and everything inside was in an extreme chaos. The moment Lin En appeared in the outside world, this hell space had been completely destroyed. Lin En stood at the crater, and the gate to hell that originally appeared in the volcano had also disappeared. Pierre and this hell space no longer existed.